What's up, Pickleheads? Welcome to the Picklehead Podcast. Today we're going to be talking about the fourth shot, where you should be placing it, and why.
Yeah. You having a good week, Oz?
Super good. Yeah, I've had a fun week. Can't even remember what I did, but I put out 3 YouTube videos this week, so that was really busy.
Sheesh.
And fun. And yeah, it's crazy because each video is like 10 to 15 minutes, depending on the video, and it takes a long time to edit every single one. Yeah. So I'm trying to take down that editing process, but the more that I edit, the less time it will take, so that'll be nice. What about you?
Good. Yeah, I think a lot of people don't understand what goes into, like, sometimes you and I have talked about this, but I don't think we've talked about it on the podcast. So if you guys go to our Instagram page, whoever's listening or watching, and you see some of the reels that we've posted on there, some of them are like 3 seconds long. Some are like, I don't know, at tops a minute long. Majority of them are us around like 10, maybe 15 seconds. And we're trying to teach something in every single one of those. But sometimes just that 10-second video to edit can take, I mean, depending on how nerdy you want to get with it, I mean, it could take an hour. It can take a little bit more.
Oh, yeah.
We're never
especially when you have OCD.
And then if I'm really pushed for time, because we try to release a video every day. So Austin releases videos. So he's on the other side, he's got his YouTube videos, which he was just talking about, which is an insane amount of editing and a lot of thought process goes into it. And then you have your Instagram page where you're releasing your own reels and you're doing that daily, which takes a long time. And then, doing these daily on Picklehead on Instagram is definitely a grind. And I just think the funniest thing about it is whenever we're like super pressed for time and I'm like, I know we need to get something out today and I don't have any time, but I just have this like quick idea. It's probably going to bomb and nobody's going to like it. That's the one that ends up getting like 100,000 views. You know?
Exactly. Every time. I knew you were going to say that.
It's like, are you kidding me?
Time.
I just spent 2 hours on the one the day before. I thought it was going to kill, and it's like, wow, that one has 1,000 views after like an entire week. So
yeah, I just cleared all the storage off of my phone. I have nothing left except for a video from 2 months ago that's literally 10 seconds long. And now I need to figure out a tip to give everybody with it. The quality is super bad. I was videoing against the sun, and you post it, and you're like, this has no hope. Wake up the next morning, it's like 1,500 likes. You're like, what the heck? Everybody's just loving this tip. You have tons of comments. Amazing tip, life-changing. Changed my game. I'm like, sweet. And then meanwhile, you spend an hour editing one. Like, this thing is baller, and then it gets 5 views. Yeah. No likes. Like, what is going on? The editing's fun. I actually really enjoy it, which is nice. It's just 3 YouTube videos. I wanted to challenge myself this week. I want to do that. When I can take pickleball full time, hopefully sooner than later, I'm definitely doing 3 videos a week, because why not? Why not put out more content if you have the time for it? It's like, that's your job. So I feel like I would have the time to do it. But yeah, I was definitely pressed for time this week getting them out.
Yeah, that's crazy you did that many. Hey, I got to make sure that my phone is still recording for just a second. But go ahead and get started, Oz. Just telling us what the fourth shot is. I'll be right back.
Okay. Yeah, so the fourth shot is obviously the fourth shot, and it's the second shot that you hit as the returning player. So your opponents are serving. They serve you the ball. The second shot of the rally is your return. And then the third shot is your opponent's hitting. It's their second shot, and they hit that shot to you. And it's not really talked about much, the fourth shot, what you should do with that ball. First of all, the most important thing is making sure that when you return, you run to the net, because you're at a disadvantage whenever you and your partner, first of all, are separated from each other. So if your partner's up at the net and you're back on the baseline, you guys are separated, you're at a disadvantage in that position, because you could easily pop the ball up because you have a greater distance to hit. So if you're going from baseline to net you're going to be a lot more inconsistent than if you're going from non-volley zone line up at the net to the non-volley zone line, because it's such a shorter distance. So making sure, first of all, that you guys are getting there together, because that's a big disadvantage, because you have that big distance to go. But also, if you pop up the ball slightly, all that they have to do is hit it at your partner, because they don't have nearly the amount of reaction time that you have at the baseline. So when you return, the first thing that you want to do when you hit the second shot of the rally is run up to the net so that you can then hit the fourth shot of the rally while you're in an offensive position up at the net. And so, yeah, we kind of want to talk about with you guys where to place that shot. So, Spencer, where do you place your fourths typically?
Before I answer that real fast, I don't want to make this a thing about the return. But on that return, like Austin said, you do want to make it to the kitchen. You have the advantage when you're returning, is what Austin's saying.
Yeah.
When you're serving, which is the opposite of tennis. A lot of people come from tennis. When you're serving, you have the advantage. In pickleball, when you're serving, you have a disadvantage because the other team is getting to the net before you are. You can't serve and volley because you got to wait for that double bounce rule. And then one more point on the return. Make sure that you're still, when you return the ball, that gives you a more consistent return. You're not missing it into the net because you're not running through it. And then right after you hit that return, that's the time to get your butt to the non-volley zone line.
Yeah, good point.
Okay, so now to answer your question, let's talk about it from a beginner's standpoint. And, advanced players too. I'm not saying advanced players don't go here. But what I would suggest doing on your fourth shot, and this is kind of the way that I learned first, is trying to put that ball cross court in the kitchen. So your opponents and keeping the ball low. Your opponents could be driving at you. They could be dropping at you. You get up to that non-volley zone line. A good thing to do would be put it cross court in the kitchen in a consistent way. Second option, which is really an alternate first option, we're trying to keep our opponents back. So we're making it difficult for the server to make their way to the net. And so we're trying to hit a deep ball. The issue is we also need to keep that ball low. So if they hit a good low dipping drive, it's tough for us to keep them way back because now they can volley the ball out of the air as they move forward. It's tough to keep them back and keep the ball low. But if you can, your two best chances are either, focus on, I guess I should say first, focus on keeping them back. But if they're hitting good shots and it's going to cause you to pop the ball up while trying to keep them back, that takes you from an offensive position into a defensive position. Yeah. And that's when I would suggest, okay, if this ball is a difficult one, I'm going cross court low into the kitchen. I've accepted the fact that they're coming up. So I might have jumped the gun a little bit there. But,
well, yeah, let's talk about that because here are the situations, okay? If you're placed in these situations, this is what you do with your fourth, typically. Not 100% of the time, but probably closer to 90% of the time.
Yeah, let's go with general rule. Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah. If your opponents drive their third shot, so the third shot of the rally, you just return the ball, you run up to the net, and they drive it, and that drive is low, then you want to hit that, like Spencer's saying, cross court because you have a greater distance to place your ball. So since you're going a greater distance, you have a better chance of getting it in when you're up at the net. Whereas if you try to go down the line, chances are you could pop it up and they'd already be up there and then they could take that ball out of the air. Does that make sense, Spencer?
Yes.
I want to make sure that I'm...
And
okay.
Another good reason to go cross court is you have a little bit more net clearance by going across the middle of the net than you do the higher edges of the net.
Perfect. Okay, so you have more net clearance because it's 34 inches in the middle and it's 36 on the sides. So if you go cross court, you're going over the middle of the net, like Spencer's saying.
Yep.
So if they drive it and it's low, it would be smart to do that cross court majority of the time, cross court short. And what you're doing there is you're conceding the kitchen. You're allowing them to come in because that's a lot better than you trying to hit it deep and trying to keep them back. But since it's so low, you have to hit up. So it's going to make it extremely difficult for them, for you on their next shot, on their fifth shot. They're probably just going to hit it super hard and down.
Yep.
And then the point's probably over. Otherwise, you just pop the ball up again, and now they just hit a overhead right at your face, right? And I've seen that happen so many times where people don't concede the kitchen. And it's kind of a weird thing, but you have to give up the kitchen sometimes and just allow your opponents to come in if they hit a good third. So if it's a drive and it's low, that's the go-to, is to hit that short cross court. If it is a drive and it's high, the go-to is to keep them back majority of the time. So you're trying to keep them back with topspin. Not necessarily with underspin, but majority of the time with topspin, because topspin is going to bring your ball back down. It's forward spinning, so it's going to bring your ball back down so that it doesn't float long. So you're coming over the ball, hitting topspin, keeping them deep if that drive, their third shot, comes in slightly high, because you can hit down on the ball. So whenever you can hit down on the ball, you want to hit it deep. Same exact thing if they hit a drop and it's short and at your feet, concede the kitchen and you're dinking that cross court and short. If they hit a drop that's slightly high, you're hitting topspin fourth and keeping them deep. And actually just 2 months ago, probably, I played with this guy who travels a ton. His name is Joel. He travels a ton and plays in professional tournaments all the time. And he has been practicing his fourth shot. Wow. It was just so noticeable how incredibly accurate he was with his fourths in making this decision-making process, first of all. So, like, he would hit it short cross court if I ever hit a good drive. If I was slightly high, he could hit it within a couple inches of the baseline every time, and it was consistent as heck.
Really?
He would not miss long. So it was really, really impressive. So it's definitely, I feel like it's an overlooked shot for the most part, but if you can hit a consistent fourth in these two positions, you're going to absolutely soar ahead of your competition. It was shocking how many fifth shots we missed because he hit so many good fourth shots.
Wow. Yeah, I think it's definitely an undervalued shot. I mean, you don't hear people talk about the fourth shot much. It's always third shot. You know, people name their, I don't know, their t-shirt company's third shot drop or whatever because it's so popular. But the fourth is also super important. You know, the fourth, the sixth, thinking about what you should do as a service, as the returning team, to not only establish offense, but to keep offense.
Yeah.
And like you said, you know, it sucks sometimes that you have to let, if your opponents have good drops and they have good drives, like you said, it sucks sometimes to let them in and close to the kitchen, but it sure beats trying to force something that's going to pop up and then you get the ball down your throat.
Exactly.
Yeah, so the fourth is huge. How often, I mean, anyone in our audience, think about this. How often have you, or do you still play somebody with a really good drop and try to get that sucker out of the air when it's right at your feet and you're trying to keep them back? I'm just trying to think of scenarios, especially when I first started playing as a beginner. They would get that drop right at my feet, and I don't know. I would either take a step back and really concede the area, or I would lots of times try to get the ball out of the air when it's hitting my toes, and that ball is going straight up, especially if I'm not hitting cross court. Yeah. And so lots of times I would either hit the net because the opponent had such a good drop, and my idea was, okay, on my fourth, I'm just going to get this thing at my toes and go straight in front of me. It would hit the net so many times. And so when we are going to concede the kitchen and allow them to come up, it is super important that we try to bring that fourth cross court. And so I just practice that over and over.
I see it all the time. And I remember when I first started, a lot of the time is what I would do is I would do half of the right thing. So I would take a step back because they would drop it and it was coming right at my feet and short. Doesn't make any sense to take that ball out of the air. I would take a step back and then I would speed it up. And 50% of the time, I would come out on top of that next shot or on top of the point. And the other 50% of the time, it was literally like as fast as I hit it, it felt like it came back twice as fast as what I hit.
Yeah.
And it's just a clear winner. And you just feel like an idiot. And I remember specifically all the people that I was playing with in my group are just like, keep it slow it down.
Yeah.
And it's not something that really you cue into until you've played a lot of pickleball, where it's like, this is when you slow down, this is when you speed up. So if the ball is ever at your feet and you have to hit up, that's what it comes down to, then you want to make sure that you're dinking that one cross court, right? You're conceding the kitchen. If you can ever hit down or even neutral, then you want to keep them back as much as possible. But be ready, because people will sneak in even when the ball is slightly high, right, or neutral. They'll sneak in, so just be ready for their shot to come back, because it's not going to come back super hard or super great if you're hitting down on the ball, or even if you're hitting neutral on the ball, if the ball is like waist level. Another big mistake that I see is people will they'll do the opposite. So someone will drive the ball and it's slightly high, and then they'll drop it. So they'll try to hit like a drop shot short into the kitchen. And all that you're doing is inviting your opponents in, unless you're playing some 90-year-old dudes, which it's like you shouldn't be drop shotting them anyway, because that's just straight savage.
Yeah, you're gross. You're gross if you're drop shotting 90-year-old dudes.
You're probably a tennis player, right, Spence?
Yeah, you're a gross tennis player.
There was actually a viral video that went around pretty recently, and it's like this old dude. He is elderly, right? Nothing against elderly people, but this dude is really, really old. He's close to kicking the can, you know what I mean? And middle-aged guy is playing him, hits a drop, and then just like shouts, "Come on," after, and the dude's dead serious. But hits a drop on this ancient man. And all the comments are just like, "I effing hate that dude," all this stuff. Like, yeah, so you don't want to do that. But that's the only time that you're going to actually win those points, is when everybody hates you because you just did that to literally an ancient person. Yeah. The other majority of the time when I see players do this, the players get up to the ball and you have now just invited them in, and now it's a neutral game instead of you had that opportunity to keep them back.
Right.
On the other hand, this can be a good change-up, but for the most part, I see more points lost on the amateur levels than I do won with them. What about you, Spencer? Do you see this happen as often as I do?
And on the amateur level and on the pro level, I would say both. I've watched a lot of pro pickleball. I've watched a lot of high-level pickleball. I've watched a decent amount of low-level pickleball. But if anyone is even remotely athletic, pickleball is so much different. They're going to get to the ball.
Literally, yeah.
And
remotely.
So it's usually not a good idea to drop shot. The only time I can think that it is one, if you have a good drop shot, so you need to have that, right? You don't want to be someone that, I'm going to try a drop shot and just shank it, into the net or miss it completely. But the other time is when your opponents are way back behind the baseline in a super defensive position. Say maybe you guys have been hitting overheads at them and all they can do is pop it back up to get it over. Then maybe they're far enough away for you to hit a drop shot. But I really think that's the only scenario I would advise not to do it as a general rule for the fourth shot.
Something that's interesting is if you hit a great return, meaning it is deep in the court and it's high. Because deep and low can be good too, but I feel like deep and high, at least for me, I struggle a lot more with than if it's deep and low. Because when it's deep and high, it can kind of get up near, shoulder level and put you in kind of a chicken wing-like position. Whereas when it's deep and low, it's right in that strike zone still. Yeah. So you can still just rip up on the ball. But when someone hits deep, when you hit a deep, high return, okay, and I'm not saying high as in it's a lob, but
right.
It's going around their shoulder level, putting them in that chicken wing position. That's a great opportunity if they drive that ball, meaning it's getting to you quickly and they don't have a lot of time to get forward. That's when you would want to drop that ball. So meaning hitting a drop shot short into the kitchen. Other than that, I would not recommend doing it because you're just inviting your opponents in. But if you hit that drop shot there, if you hit it correctly, you'll hit a winner. If you hit it close to correctly, they'll pop up the ball to you because they'll have no control sprinting in, getting there. But in every other circumstance, if you hit a decent return, if it's deep and low, they're going to be able to just run straight through it and get into the net very, very easily. So it won't really be a problem for them. Am I saying that right? Yeah, it would be a deep return. Yeah.
Yeah, their goal is to make it to the kitchen. I mean, they're already heading that way.
Yeah, they're trying to get there if they're smart.
Yeah, I would advise against it. So, I mean, those are the two main things with the fourth shot. Some drills you can do. When I first learned it, we had 3 of us drilling together. We didn't have a fourth to play, and we're like, oh, we might as well drill. And you can just drill the fourth shot over and over. So we would have somebody. I mean, you can do it either way. You can have 2 people on the service side acting like they're serving, or you can have 2 people on the receiving side, but really only the one person is drilling, and then you rotate. But you would practice keeping the opponent back. So you would practice your return, getting to the line as quickly as you can, and then either keeping the opponent back or hitting the ball cross court. And so you have to make that decision between which am I going to do? Am I going to keep them back based on the ball that you receive? You can obviously learn that in rec play, but I learned it a lot faster when I was drilling because of the repetition. We did it over and over and over and over. And so I could finally start to recognize, oh, okay, this is the ball. This one is too low. I'm going to pop it up if I try to keep them back. I got to just hit it soft cross court. That's all I can do for this one.
Yeah.
And you start to recognize a lot sooner. Whereas if you're playing a rec game, you might not get as many balls. It might take you 12 matches before you get as many balls as you could just in one drill session. And so you don't even need a lot of people to do it. But anyway, that's how I learned to get better at it. Am I the best at it? No, but I definitely got a lot better by drilling it.
Right. And I think what it comes down to is just getting reps in, like Spencer's saying. So you're getting out there with a drilling partner, maybe a couple of drilling partners, and you're just hitting the shot over and over and over again. And that's what's going to help you to take your game to the next level. And it's figuring out the correct technique to do it too. So you can't get out there and just mindlessly drill and think that you're doing it correctly, because all of a sudden you play against a more advanced player, they hit a slightly different spin or they hit a slightly different pace, and all of a sudden now your ball's hitting the fence because you weren't doing it correctly enough to where you were windshield wipering and hitting topspin over the ball.
Yeah.
So it really comes down to making sure that you're doing it with the right technique, and then you're having that focus throughout your entire drilling session, as well as when you're playing in rec games. You have a focus of something that you're working on, and you don't even have to let your partner know, hey, I'm working on this. So if we lose, this is what I'm working on. It's like, you shouldn't be losing because you're working on something. That's not really fair, obviously, to your partner. I don't really necessarily agree with that. But I think that you should be more so practicing in drilling sessions, I guess is what I'm trying to say. But when you get into that rec game, you should still have a focus of what you're practicing on, but it shouldn't be the end all be all, if all be all. What is it?
End all be all.
Yeah. Okay. It shouldn't be the end all be all, because you don't want to just, what was that?
End, like the end of a movie.
End. Okay. I was like, man, this still doesn't sound right. End all be all. That sounds correct. Anyways, English is fun. So I don't even remember what I was talking about, but
it
shouldn't be the end all be all.
For anyone listening, Austin's first language is actually English. So just give him a break.
So you know.
His second language is also English. So
English is my first language. I don't remember what I was saying, but yeah, it's the end all be all. So just remember that, and he should be set. Oh yeah, so drilling. So I think drilling is the time to practice. Make sure that you're drilling with the correct technique. How do you know if you have the correct technique? I'm just going to put in right now, my app helps you to have the right technique. It's videos every week of me showing you how to do the right technique, as well as drills to help you practice whatever it is that you want to practice. So
Yeah,
that's a good
sure.
avenue. Also, just taking lessons, getting out there with teaching pros who will be able to help you improve your game, because if you're not doing it with the right technique, you're really going to struggle. And getting out there in rec games, having a focus of what you want to practice will really, really help you to improve upon that thing. Whenever I'm playing in rec, there's one specific thing that I'm focusing on improving. And right now it's my backhand dink, because I feel like my backhand dink is the worst it's ever been, and it should be a lot better, but
I doubt that.
I obviously need to practice a lot more. So like whenever I'm going out and I'm playing in rec and I'm drilling, I spend a lot of time on the backhand dink trying to get it more consistent, with different balls coming at me, right? Playing against different people.
Yeah. It's always good to have something to focus on while you're out there playing. If not, your mind can go a lot of different ways, and then you start hitting stupid shots because you're not focused you're not focused in general, right?
Yeah, you're just not.
So let's recap real quick some important points to the fourth shot.
Yeah.
Make sure you have a good return. Hit your return while you're still. Don't be running through it. And then as soon as you hit that ball, make contact with the ball, get to the net. Set yourself up for a good fourth shot. If the ball's somewhat high in general, we're generally speaking here, try to hit that ball down with topspin and keep your opponents back. If that ball is hit somewhat low, maybe they hit a nice, a real nice drop or even a low drive, and you feel like in any way you might pop that ball up a little bit, your safest bet is to go cross court. Whether you're on the backhand side or the forehand side, try to go cross court in the kitchen. You'll have to allow your opponents to come up, because that way the point continues to go instead of getting the ball shoved down your throat because you popped it up.
Exactly.
So in a nutshell, the fourth shot is super underrated, but extremely important. So get out there and practice it. I would say the last point, which we like to stress every podcast, and Austin stressed it again this podcast, is get out there and drill it. Drill it so that you can recognize which ball do I need to hit to keep the opponent back, and which ball do I need to hit and to where I have to concede the kitchen, but at least we're still in the point. Would you agree with that, Oz?
Exactly. Yep. 100%. I think you covered everything too, which was impressive, because I can't remember anything else that we went over.
I'm just impressive. I mean, what can I say?
That was a good recap without notes. Pretty unbelievable.
All right. Thanks, guys, for tuning in this week. We hope this helps your game. Follow us on Instagram at PickleheadPod. You can also follow Austin at Pickleball Playbook, and check out his app. It's a free app. It's seriously free. So go check it out, Pickleball Playbook app. You'll love it. He'll give you drills. I mean, there's free drills on there for you to use. Why not use them? Right, Oz?
Exactly. There's also a paid version. So you get one free drill every week with the free version, so might as well download it, right? We already have 2,000 users, and then tons of people that are actually subscribed, because when you're subscribed, you get 4 drills a week, and then you get actual videos so that you're doing the right technique. So it's kind of fun stuff. Don't feel obligated, obviously, to do the pro version, but at least get on there and try the free version, because you get drills to do, right? So
yeah. I mean, why not use it if it's free? You know what else is free, Oz?
Our Instagram.
You know what else is free?
Not our hats.
Definitely have hats for sale right now. You can click the link on our Instagram page and buy those. But I was going to say something else that's free is pushing that subscribe button if you're watching on YouTube. If you're not watching on YouTube, just jump on there real quick and hit subscribe. We would certainly appreciate it.
Yeah, please do. We hope that you guys have enjoyed this. We've enjoyed talking with each other, talking about the fourth shot, and we'll see you guys hopefully on the next one.
Later.